YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back, and today we're reacting / breaking down someone else's mock draft. Something new, something we haven't done yet. We have plenty of mock drafts on the channel, plenty more to come, especially when we get to draft season. After conference championship games this weekend, we'll have an updated one, so early next week. Senior Bowl's coming up, so we'll have stock up, stock down, updated mock after that. We got full NFL draft, full NFL coverage in general, playoff content. We already got off-season free agency coverage going as well. We're reacting to Daniel Jeremiah's 1.0 mock draft, the first one of the year. Always look forward to these. He doesn't have too many during the year, and he definitely knows his stuff. If we made a big board of huge draft guys, I think Daniel Jeremiah would be at the top, if we're not including ourselves, of course. So excited about this. Excited to break it down. A lot of people talking about it on Twitter, so I thought this was pretty cool. Follow our Twitter, constant NFL talk, NFL draft talk. You guys will vote for a fan-voted mock draft each pick. So follow that Twitter. Link in the description and comments for that. Anything else you need, including that sided app where you can debate football and win Amazon gift cards. I'll put a link in the description and the comments. I'll pin a link in the comments, actually, of Daniel Jeremiah's DJ's mock draft. First one. Really excited about this. We're going to break it down here. So the first pick was Trevor Lawrence. No surprise there. Pretty sure everyone has that. So Urban Meyer comes in, and he talks about Urban Meyer there. I was talking about not too long ago, this is kind of a perfect situation. It's a perfect time for Urban Meyer to come in because, the guy knows talent, maybe better than anybody in football. He knows talent. He's proven that. He's gathered the right talent at Ohio State, wherever he's been, Utah. So coming in here with 11 draft picks, it's ideal. The question seems to be, can he coach, which is odd because we know he can coach, but I guess at the NFL level, how will he be game planning in game? So that's to be determined, I suppose. I'm confident, but it's just such a perfect time to get a guy like Urban Meyer to handle these picks, and they're going to go out and draft the best players available, and they're in position to do that. That's how they're going to build this team. It's what they should do, and they're starting it right here, getting the best player in the draft in Trevor Lawrence. So that's a pretty obvious one. The Jets go Zach Wilson, which was my most recent pick as well, and currently, if I had to make a mock draft today, DJ went with Zach Wilson, the Jets. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like him in that Mike LaFleur coming in their offense coordinator. So that's the Shanahan system. I kind of like him in that system. Honestly, I think he can work in almost any system. Talented dude, very fun to watch. And the explosive play, downfield ability, the deep ball, arm strength, but mainly the throw on the run ability is next level. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, this will be my pick. We're still pretty early on in the draft. There's a lot of reports coming out that they're a believer in Sam Darnold. They could be. Darnold's, maybe he's still got some upside. Young kid, hasn't had the best opportunities. I don't know how you can pass on one of these quarterbacks if it's me, personally. And just because what they're saying positive things about Sam Darnold doesn't mean that that's the guy. What else they're going to say? I don't know how they kind of get past this pick without taking one of the top quarterbacks here, mainly looking at Wilson. So I agree with the pick there. So the Dolphins take Jamar Chase. Third overall. We know they need a receiver. They could use another offensive lineman. That's kind of what everyone's talking about. Other things could come into play. But that's what everyone's talking about with the third pick, pretty much. Receiver, a couple options. Offensive lineman, a couple options there. So we went with Jamar Chase. Yeah, and I'm still on board with Jamar Chase being the best receiver in the class. Devante Smith had an insane season, and he would be number one in most classes. But yeah, Jamar Chase, we just can't forget what he did a year ago. Probably was the best receiver in the country on his team, even. He had Justin Jefferson on his team. The downfield, catchability, way he tracks the ball, way he fights off corners using his length to separate, kind of last second, but mainly tracking the ball. That's what stands out. That's what everyone remembers, but people kind of forget his footwork is actually next level as well. It's very good. So I think he's a plug-and-play guy right away. He'd be their best receiver, and they got a guy like Devontae Parker as well. So I think that's would be a good addition for Tua Tagovailoa there. And that's what he's saying. He needs more weapons for Tua. Fourth pick, this is where it kind of got a little bit surprising here, was Trey Lance to the Falcons. So, yeah, I expected to see Justin Fields here, but he goes Trey Lance, and he's saying, it would likely come down to Lance versus Fields. I could see scenarios where the Falcons don't go quarterback as well, but I would highly recommend they go with the quarterback. When are the Falcons picking 4? I'd expect them not, that they're not going to be picking 4 next year. You never know. You can't really predict the future. And with this type of draft class where the number 3 quarterback that would usually be, whether it's Lance or Fields, would usually be number 1 in most classes or maybe 2, would be available at 4. I mean, you have to take this opportunity when you have it. The rare opportunity. I think you have to take it. I would probably go Fields here still, but because he's definitely still in the running for number 2 pick as well, even though I do like Wilson. But once I saw this, it definitely got interesting because they bring in Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith wants to run the ball a little more. Trey Lance, very good. They can, very good runner. So is Fields, though. Fields actually could have more downfield speed after he gets going. Perhaps. I guess that's debatable. But yeah, more design runs in your, for your quarterback if you have a guy like Trey Lance, and you see what Arthur Smith tried to do with the Titans, especially down the stretch of the season. Wish they would have done in the playoffs a little more, but they were getting some read options in there, and that was working with a guy like Ryan Tannehill. Now Trey Lance able to take maybe more of a beating, better built, suited for those runs, and be a little faster, a little better runner than Ryan Tannehill. So that would be ideal. Maybe that's the kind of direction Arthur Smith wants to go, and that's why I can see this pick, even though most people would say probably Fields or somebody else, but I can see that for those reasons. So that's definitely an interesting one there, one to think about. Bengals go Rashaan Slater. I think a lot of people expected Penei Sewell, and Penei Sewell from Oregon's an option at pick 3 for the Dolphins, of course, and I suppose Rashaan Slater is as well. So both those on the board. People probably expected Penei Sewell, but he goes Rashaan Slater, who's been getting a lot of talk, a lot of rave reports, I guess. He didn't play this year. He played the year before, last year, and he was impressive. He's a guy that people view who can play tackle or guard. He didn't give up a single sack last year. I think the tape against Ohio State, is what, when going against Chase Young, is what everyone's kind of raving about. So that's a pretty good resume there. Yeah, and the Bengals could use, there's some people saying Slater could be a plug-and-play guard or tackle. I think they could use either one there, so he can come in there and help them. Jonah Williams, they're going to play him at when he was coming out of Alabama, was kind of talked that he can be a top-tier guard. He's had some injuries, but yeah, he can play that tackle guard, so kind of the similar thing here. One will play one, will probably play the other. That is an option. He thinks Kyle Pitts can be an option as well. To pair with those receivers, that'd be something. 6th pick, Patrick Surtain from Alabama. You don't really see this too often, but I definitely like it. You see the receivers, in this case, maybe Devante Smith from Alabama. You've seen Parsons from Penn State, the linebacker, because their linebacker unit's pretty weak. Those are all pretty good options. But yeah, Surtain I like because, and he mentioned it as well, team up with Darius Slay. That's what I was about to mention as well, because the Eagles secondary was still, it's been bad for so long, and they went out and traded for Slay, and it's like finally they got somebody that's proven, and it's gonna be a lot better. And it might have been a little bit better, but it was still not, it wasn't too good. But yeah, and then it sounds kind of funny, but the difference of one top-tier corner, Darius Slay in this case, just having one on your team and having 2, there is a big, big difference, because teams are kind of just going to pick on the other side of the field, and then maybe they went after Slay sometimes because their best receiver was over there by Slay. But if you add another one and a guy like Patrick Surtain, where teams just wouldn't throw to him, we see that, even the game, every game, but get to the games in the playoff, Notre Dame, they just didn't throw to that side. As well as Ohio State, they tried to avoid that very, as much as they can, or maybe, at all times. So, because he's a lockdown corner, can press, a very good technique as well. So he's just a lockdown guy. He's going to make you throw to the other side of the field. And if you have Slay and Surtain, it makes that defense that much better. It really makes it, having 2 lockdown corners really can do wonders for your defense. So I do like that pick, even though it's probably not the most common one, but not that it's out there or anything. I definitely like it. Lions take Devante Smith, which I like this one. This makes sense because it's kind of the best player available here for the Lions. It's an instant plug-and-play guy. You play him in a slot, play him outside. I think his biggest thing is just kind of just getting open, and which is the most, his footwork and getting open, and his deep speed as well. And he's got great hands, and that's just kind of, these receivers that just get the separation. Look at Justin Jefferson, a guy who can play inside and out. He wins with his footwork, and then everything else is kind of a bonus. It's just the same thing. So that being said, I think he's a plug-and-play guy, instant impact guy. He better be plug-and-play if he's 7th pick, but like Justin Jefferson there. So the Lions, Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, both free agents. They would have to get Kenny Golladay back. Marvin Jones, pretty solid, underrated, but maybe they go the cheaper route there. even if they get both those guys back, they can really benefit from having Devante Smith more reps in the slot with those guys outside. I mean, if this team's going to win now, they're going to keep Stafford. That's kind of his scenario as well. If they're going to keep Stafford, they're going to be trying to win now. We know that, but they're not. Their defense isn't, the defense is a bit of a mess right now. They got to get that together. It's going to take time. It's not. You can't just go through an offseason and it's all fixed. It could be better, but it could improve. But if they're going to win now, it's going to be because their offense. So their offense has to be it's got to be a top tier offense, and it can be that with Stafford. And if they get Galladay back, they got DeAndre Swift now, pretty good group there. So adding a guy like Devante Smith can just really make that. We would expect it to be towards the top of the NFL, so that would be ideal for them to win now there, especially. But either way, you're getting your best player available, so it definitely helps for the future. 8. Panthers fans, how excited would Panthers fans be about this one? Justin Fields drops to number 8, and you see this scenario, how this plays out. We can see it's realistic, even though a lot of people expect him to go a little earlier, but this would be ideal. If the Panthers, let's just hope the Carolina Panthers fans have their diapers on if Justin Fields is their pick, because I don't know if they expect this. It'll get them that pumped, But yeah, because Teddy Bridgewater, he actually looked pretty good earlier in the year. Second half of the season, I don't know what happened. He had an injury that popped at one point. Maybe that what it was, what it happened to be. But he really declined in the second half of the year. I don't know what that was about. And it kind of looks like the question, is the future quarterback of the Panthers is kind of up in the air still because of that. To get a guy like Justin Fields today, you got to take him at 8, and I think that'll be the future. We'll see if Joe Brady's still there, the offense coordinator. That'll be ideal, but just too good to pass on, and it's a guy that could be your future. It's a good young team too, bright future. So that would, this would be insane. Panthers fans would be, they'd be ecstatic, if this guy was on the board when they were picking. The Broncos go Caleb Farley, 9th overall. He has to the Broncos there. And we know corner could be their need. Quarterback could be. We'll see what they decide to do with Drew Lock, if he's their future. But corner, could be a pretty big need. They got quite a few free agents on the defensive side, looking at Justin Simmons, Von Miller as an option, A.J. Johnson, Shelby Harris. So they got some big-time free agents on the defensive side. They're going to try to make sure they get those guys back wherever they can get back there. And then, to keep the defense where it was at, which was very good. Remember, that was without Von Miller as well. But they were really lacking at the cornerback position with injuries and whatnot. So they definitely can get better there. A.J. Bouye is pretty solid, but pretty big cap hit. They could potentially cut him. We actually talked about who teams could cut to save money in the most recent video here. So even if they have Bouye or not, whoever they have, they could use a guy like Caleb Farley. I think I talk about Farley. In every mock draft, I talk about why I like him, why teams and defensive coordinators are really going to like him. The combination of physicality, length, and athleticism is ridiculous. Can press. And was actually a former receiver too, so it's definitely a likable thing for corners sometimes to know the position you're covering. So that's ideal. The Broncos would benefit from having him very much. This was a bit of a surprising one. The Cowboys end up with Penei Sewell, who a lot of people have been going around 3 or 5. Dolphins, Bengals. Not too many people have him dropping past the Bengals, but one thing really has to happen, or maybe 2 things. But the Dolphins taking a receiver is very realistic, and one thing has to happen. The Bengals just maybe prefer Slater for their situation, their scenario, and they like Slater, which is very possible. Even though most people think Sewell, but that's all has to happen, and then Sewell can drop to this point, and that would be, that'd be ridiculous for the Cowboys. It's probably not the biggest need. He's saying, they get younger, more talented along the offensive line. They definitely do, but it's not their biggest need. But you still just can't pass up on a guy like this. And we saw Cowboys last year didn't draft off need; they drafted off best player available, and I like that a lot. I think what's in this scenario, I think he would start opposite of Zach Martin at guard, which I think I talked about in the past. He could almost be a Pro Bowl guard right away. He could be a Pro Bowl tackle. He's that good, but I think it would just be instantly that dominant at guard. But they have Tyrone Smith and Leo Collins at tackle. Those guys are proven tackles. So that spot opposite of Martin could be improved, and that offensive line would be that dominant across the board. And then the bonus with this is, Sewell is a tackle right now, and he could start at tackle right away. Again, I mentioned they have Tyrone Smith, Leo Collins. studs at the tackle position. But Tryon Smith has had injuries build up recently, missed all of last year. Pretty much La'el Collins missed all of last year. So if Sewell needs to play tackle, a little more important at tackle than guard, obviously, and might be a little easier to replace or find a backup to start at guard. You can move Sewell to tackle if those guys get hurt. So you kind of get a 2-for-1, and I wouldn't be against them starting him, no matter what. If you start him at tackle or guard, I'd be happy with it. So that is a pretty intriguing pick. See if he drops to the Cowboys. Love to have him. Giants would take, in his scenario, Jalen Waddle, the Alabama receiver. See him try to play the national championship. Tough dude. Wasn't 100% too. People kind of bring up, will that affect his stock? Ankle injury, you'd think he'd be able to recover for it. Seeing her limping around, though. Maybe it's in some, coaches, front office, executives. Maybe it's in their head that maybe he's not recovered for that. Do we want to take him this early? Who knows? I mean, he's just a ridiculous talent. You look at Henry Ruggs was the first receiver off the board from Bama last year. What was he known for? Really his speed and his big playability downfield, deep downfield. And Waddle has that, but I think he has more to his game. That's kind of maybe why Ruggs struggled a little bit first year, because right now he does feel kind of one-dimensional, but he'll grow on that. Waddle has a lot more to his game than that. Explosive playmaker, and a special teamer as well, can return at a very high level. But yeah, the Giants got a decent group of receivers. This has got to be Golden Tate's last year here coming up for the Giants, you would think. Slayton's solid, Shepard's solid, but receivers feel like they're taking over today's NFL. That's because it's a high-powered passing era, I suppose. So, you need as many number ones as you can get. I think Waddle would be their best receiver, so you just get better at the position. And he mentioned, if they're all in on Daniel Jones, this is a good option there. If they are, in my opinion, they could get better in quarterback. I think a lot of us know that, but it's easier said than done here. And if they believe in Daniel Jones and they're kind of insisting on it, and they see that he's got potential, you go try to make him the best you can possibly make him, obviously, and getting a guy like Waddle would be ideal. This is an interesting one. Niners take Kyle Pitts, and why it's interesting because, I've already done a bunch of mock drafts, but there was one I did not that long ago where I actually had this. I had Kyle Pitts going to the Niners, and I got ripped by you guys in the comments. The 49ers don't need a tight end. Are you kidding me? They got other needs. And, it's not always about the need. You got to take best player available, and not every team, goes off that. But Kyle Pitts, for me, is a top 5 player on my board. Does that mean he has to go or will go top 5? No. But it's just too good to pass. One, I think him and Kittle will work, and we'll see. And then Daniel Jeremiah puts, don't freak out, people. Yeah, it's kind of how I was. People were freaking out when I did it. And he mentioned it too. It can work with the Shanahan offense there. He's really not the same. It doesn't have to be, I should say, the same position as George Kittle. Kyle Pitts can play in line. He can play in the slot, can play outside. He might be he's probably the best contested catcher in this class. His footwork's fantastic. He can block, whether it's in line, slot, outside, downfield, whatever. So you can use both. And, they got thin at times at receiver, even though they got some young studs. They just got thin because of injuries. So that it's almost like a 2-for-1 situation here. It just helps in general. And they made it to the Super Bowl just a year ago. I think defense is a big reason they got there, but their offense was solid. Solid system. But, they had that lead, and they just maybe came up a little short. If they kept producing on offense, making those extra plays on offense, they would have won the Super Bowl. And just getting a big-time playmaker in a mismatch, a matchup nightmare here would be appealing and make them that much better. So I'm on board with this. It's just almost too good to pass at this point. He should go earlier, but do teams want to take a tight end? Are teams going to draft off need? Teams will. I like this. I've had it before, and it's just really funny how he's put "don't freak out" because I don't know if he's taking comments anywhere on Twitter. Maybe I believe he is, and I believe people are giving it to him at least. So I'm sure they're actually giving it to him about this one because they did to me. So we'll see. I would like that fit. Chargers take Elijah Vera Tucker, the USC offensive lineman. He played guard, and then he had to fill in at tackle. And he mentioned at a high level at both guard and tackle. Yeah, he had to fill that tackle, and he looked like a natural there as well. And that'll be ideal. And he puts Chargers must address the offense. Yes. They got a few free agents at guard. They could use one more guard right now, starter, opposite of Trey Turner, and they can use a tackle opposite of Brian Bulaga, who, he's himself had some injuries. He's not going to last forever. He's been a great tackle for a long time. So I think a plug-and-play guard here. But, if he has to start at left tackle, I think that would be ideal. So yeah, that 13, that's really not a surprising pick too much. Maybe he's a little higher on Tucker than most people, but yeah. The Vikings take Gregory Rousseau from Miami. Interesting one. This is the ultimate upside pass rusher in my opinion. The ultimate traits. I think he started listing. Yeah, he started listing some traits here. He's a big, elite length. Yeah, freaky dude. He's an absolute freak. And this would be a Vikings pick. So I agree with this pick. I actually think there's probably two, and we'll talk about these other ones. I think there's two other pass rushers that are more talented today, right now, and actually another one from Miami. We'll talk about it in a little bit, and that's my opinion. But yeah, he's the ultimate traits, upside, just freaky dude. And the Vikings, their pass rush was pretty terrible this year. They did miss Danielle Hunter, so they'll get him back. But you would like to have two big-time edge rushers. Speaking of Danielle Hunter, when the Vikings took him, that guy had no production as a pass rusher. He's a run-stopping edge guy. You want him to have production, getting after the quarterback. But he's just a freaky dude, a lot of upside. He had the traits, and the Vikings saw that, and he's just becoming one of the better 4-3 ends in football, all of football if he's healthy. So this would be a Vikings pick. They see the traits, and that they think they can develop him. The guy's played all over the defensive line too, so he wasn't just an edge rusher. There's times where he had production, solid play rushing from the inside. I seen him line up at nose tackle at times, which he's not going to be a nose tackle the next level, but you see, he's just a ball player. That's pretty much what it is. You put him anywhere. I think that'll be pretty appealing to Zimmer that he's moved around a bit, but just the upside there, just the upside there, just like Danielle Hunter was, where his upside was at. So it definitely could be a need. They could use some offensive linemen. We see a lot go right before. So that pick makes sense. Again, I think there's probably better edge rushers at the moment, but it's about upside here. Patriots go Micah Parsons, and this is actually funny too because not that long ago I had Micah Parsons, and it was kind of a rare thing because I normally don't have Micah Parsons dropping that far because he's a crazy good talented linebacker, but I did one time have him dropping to the Patriots, and people were freaking out about that. There's no chance he's going to drop that far, which with his talent you don't really see it, but then you create a mock draft in a scenario like this, and it just happens, and you see it's realistic, especially what he just opted out. How will teams take that? Some teams might not like the opt-outs. It's going to be interesting. I really don't know how teams will take that. But there's a lot of guys. I remember Sue was just before this. He opted out. But this would be a Patriots linebacker. The Patriots are just famous for having those linebackers that are, what are they? They're hybrid utility linebackers, I call them sometimes. Are they edge rushers? Are they off-the-ball linebackers? Kyle Van Noy, guys like that, Jamie Collins. They don't have either anymore. So that's kind of like Micah Parsons, kind of a do-it-all guy. He is really good at blitzing. Very productive at blitzing. He's a freaky dude. He can do it all as a linebacker, but I thought that is where he stood out the most. Sometimes he went off the edge, and it almost looks like he can be, if you want him to be an edge rusher, I think he can do it. He's that talented. Another guy's just a ball player, natural. But it'll be an off-the-ball linebacker. You're going to get the most out of him doing that. You'll use him, in the pass rush game at times, blitzing him. He can cover as well. So that's a Patriots linebacker. We'll see if he's there. I guess that's the question. It's possible in a scenario like this. He's a talented guy. I can definitely see him on the Patriots. Next, we got the Cardinals taking Jalen Phillips, and I mentioned that. Rousseau's, kind of that raw talent. He can be talented right away, but the upside guy, and I think Phillips might actually be the most talented edge rusher in the class. And I was actually watching him not that long ago. I was watching some tape on him, and I was blown away. I'm like, we got to put this guy higher. And I'll pull it up. I actually tweeted it. What was that, January 20th? So a few days ago there. I was thinking he might be the most talented pass rusher in the class. And then I remembered, he had when he was at UCLA, he had multiple concussions in a short period of time, and they kind of made him medically retire, and then he came back. So how will that affect his draft stock? To me, I think he could be a top 10 player in terms of his talent. And then I get to the DJ mock draft, and Phillips is one of the most, he sees the same thing, so I'm excited to see that we're on the same page there. But yeah, he's extremely talented. He talks about his pass rush traits there. But even in the run game, I thought he was impressive when I was watching. Really good at finding the ball and reacting to it and getting to the ball fast. But he's a fantastic pass rusher. And he was a top recruit too, so this really shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But the past concussions and kind of almost being forced to sit out for a bit and technically medically retire, even though it felt like he knew he was coming back. How will that affect his stock? Teams might teams might not like that, but I do like to fit with the Cardinals. I could see Phillips fitting, a 3-4 or 4-3 defense. Specifically, I would like a 3-4. Or, I would prefer a 3-4. That's what the Cardinals are at. And some people don't like when mocks have edge rushers to the Cardinals because, Chandler Jones is one of the best. He was hurt last year. He come back. Hassan Reddick was fantastic last year. They got to re-sign him. They got a couple other guys they can, Kennard, Gardick, that are pretty solid as well. But that's like on a situation that could be great, but there's nothing guaranteed with that situation because Chandler Jones was hurt last year. How much longer is he going to go for? How much longer is he going to be on the team? He's still great, though. Reddick was that kind of a one-year wonder. We haven't seen it. I believe in him because he finally got moved back to the right position. I had a first-round grade out of Temple as an edge rusher. They moved to inside linebacker. I don't know why. And he ended up being a fantastic, but he's a free agent. And on top, you don't really know what you're going to get. So it's kind of a mystery there. And I think they could afford to make a move like this. Take the risk on a guy like Jalen Phillips, which is a high, maybe it's a bit of a high risk, high reward, big time high reward here. So I'd like that. A lot of people have them taking corner. We'll see what they do. I guess free agency comes first. The Raiders take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame. Yeah, rangy, freaky, athletic linebacker. He mentioned dynamic athlete, second level of the defense. He talks about how he can cover. He covered from the slot maybe better than most corners in all of football last year, which is ridiculous. All these linebackers you got to take off the field on third down because you need to put a nickel corner in. Well, not with Owusu-Koramoah. He might be covering better than a lot of these nickel corners here. So it's a guy that stays on the field. You can blitz him. He's just so athletic where he can just get after the quarterback. He's just constantly around the ball, constantly making plays. This would be something for the Raiders. Raiders brought in Gus Bradley, and I don't want to compare him to Kenneth Murray in terms of his freaky athletic ability. And you can use him in different ways getting after the quarterback. I'll compare him in that way, I suppose. But Gus Bradley is with the Chargers. They traded up. They drafted Kenneth Murray. But the big difference here is Owusu-Koramoah is way, way better in coverage. Maybe not built like Murray. Murray can play a little inside linebacker. But, my point is, the freaky, rangy linebacker that can do just so much. There's so much to his game. Maybe even more here with this one. That could be pretty appealing. You'll pair him with Littleton. They have Wachowski over there too. So, I can definitely see that. And then we got the Dolphins. He has them taking Christian Darrisaw, which I've seen his name pop up in the top 10 quite a bit. I guess it depends on when the offensive linemen start coming off the board. If one comes off, he didn't have one coming off at 3. There's been times where I've had that, and if that happens, they might come off the board earlier. So that could be push Darrisaw up a little earlier. But it's more of an athletic tackle. He mentions that he can put him in at right tackle. So, they had Austin Jackson from USC last year, so keeping him at left tackle. Robert Hunt played right tackle, which he played tackle at Louisiana. But I kind of got the feeling that he was going to be a guard at the next level. We'll see if the Dolphins kind of I think he could be a damn good guard. Let's see if they slide him in to guard and they'll put Darrisaw at right tackle. That'd be ideal. Keep Tua protected. So you got that receiver and you got that tackle. You got some pretty good value there. Darius Tony goes 19 to Washington football team here. They got Terry McLaurin. Sims ended up being pretty solid, but they definitely need more receivers. It's been some time that they needed some receivers there. Tony it wasn't a huge name going into the year, and a few games in, I was already sold. You see the home run ability, the big play ability. The speed is ridiculous, quickness and speed. But you want to make sure he's just more than that, and I saw that he's more than that too. He was just such a weapon for them. Every game really, but looking at that Bama game, the SEC title game. He was able to, find open spots in zone coverage as well. So he's understanding defenses. He reads the defenses, but great footwork, great route runner. See him play in the slot, play outside, got that speed. You talk about Henry Ruggs. We talked about it a little bit ago. He was the first receiver to go. And I think there actually might, and I'm not saying which receiver is going to be better when it's all said and done, but there might be more to Tony's game. Ruggs might have a step on him in terms of the speed, but he got a speed guy that actually might have a little more to his game. So that's pretty interesting. Washington, still looking for their quarterback as well. The Bears go Jalen Mayfield from Michigan here. The tackle. He mentions tackle or slide him inside the guard. I like him on tackle, at tackle for the Bears. Maybe pair him with Charles Leno. So maybe a plug-and-play guy at right tackle I would like. Massey, we'll see what happens with him. He's the right tackle, but they could move on from him. But yeah, Mayfield, I would like at right tackle for them. Worst case, he's a starting guard. I like if the Bears are healthy. I like their interior though. Their interior is looking pretty good, but yeah, they got a lot to build on their offense. They still need their quarterback. It's gonna be tough to find one at 20. Mac Jones is still sitting around in this scenario. They could use more receivers, whether they have Allen Robinson back or not. And so maybe sometimes when you need so much on offense, you just start building the offensive line, get that in place because it's extremely important. So I could see it. Colts taking Kwity Paye. Yeah, I don't really see him getting by this point. He could go earlier. It could end up being the first pass rusher off the board. I guess maybe a reason why he won't, or I think the other guys might fit more teams. I think Kwity Paye specifically needs a 4-3 team. 4-3, there's nothing wrong with that. 4-3 defensive end. He's very good stopping the run already too. Gets pressure, super strong. Maybe you wish there was a little more sacks, but I think a lot of these are going to turn into sacks because he's getting pressure and just dominating his competition. Yeah, I would like this for the Colts, though, because they're as good as their defense was, they could have used a little more edge presence, edge pressure as well. DeForest Buckner getting the interior pressure. Justin Houston was good, who is a free agent and getting up there in age, by the way. They can use somebody with that if they get Houston back, but if not, they might need to double down. But yeah, having Paye and Buckner kind of grow there, that'd be ideal. Because that defense was that good, and they didn't really have that much of an edge rush presence there. So that'd be awesome if the Colts could grab Paye. Titans take J.C. Horn. Yeah, maybe too good to pass. Their cornerback play. He said they need better cover guys there. And yeah, their cornerback play wasn't that great. They kind of had a tough task though because the Titans just couldn't get pressure. Quarterbacks had all day to throw. But yeah, J.C. Horn is going to be better than the next best pass rushers for sure. Probably the best available player at this point. Yeah, I was blown away by his performance this year. Specifically, the Auburn game was. That game alone might have been the best for a corner on the year. Just absolutely lockdown was all over Seth Williams that game, pressing at a high level, being physical with a physical receiver. But as he's able to do all that, I notice he's always keeping an eye on the quarterback as well. So being able to do all that, multitask is not too many corners, even NFL corners can do that. So I think in normal classes, he could be a number 2 corner, number 1. He's the third here because the top 3 guys are absolute studs. The Jets go with Travis Etienne, the Clemson running back. So people might be surprised that they don't see Najee. He doesn't have Najee Harris here, who's kind of getting a little more likely, known, I guess, as the number 1 running back. But it very easily could be Etienne, elevating his pass catching, catching the ball to backfield, downfield, and then having, that big playability afterwards. He's really elevated that, improved that, and teams will love that. And he's a very good runner as it is. Maybe because he's got Harris beat a little bit in terms of the speed. Maybe that could be why. Harris also really improved his pass catching game, receiving ability. So we'll see. Those guys could be the first running backs off the board. I do like Devante Williams from North Carolina as well. But those two, I think we expect to be first guys. Too bad they couldn't get Lawrence to pair to Etienne there. That would have been something. Steelers go Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. We don't really see this one much in mock drafts, but yeah, the athletic tackle. I think sometimes the problem with the Big 12 in the past, the Big 12 offensive lineman and tackle specifically, the ball comes out so quick in those offenses where it's just, they're pass protecting for, not too long. It's hard to get a firm, not always, but a firm judgment on them. But I think Oklahoma State, didn't really, play like a typical Big 12 team. I think that, they came in there with the idea of running the ball more, and they did, they had a collection of running backs, not just Hubbard, that they ran the ball a bit more. So you see that Jenkins could, he could play, and that's the Steelers need. I think it helps him in multiple areas. I think he can run block as a tackle. I think he can pass protect, and that'll definitely help on both stages there for the Steelers. And yeah, they got to build the offensive line back up. It's really declining. They got some free agents this offseason, so they got to make sure if Big Ben's the guy that he's protected, whoever the guy is protected there. Jacksonville Jaguars at 25, their second pick, Trayvon Moore. Yeah, this pick's interesting actually. When he declared on Twitter, I was talking about, when he plays a free safety, kind of a single high role, he reminded me of Justin Simmons a bit, who is one of the better, he has single high frees in football of the Broncos. He's kind of built like him as well. So he kind of was talking about that. It reminded me a little bit. And why that's interesting is because I just made a video the other day. We were going over a free agent, a big-time free agent that each team should target, and I like Justin Simmons. You know, and the Broncos could very well end up with Justin Simmons. You get him back, of course, very important to them. But I liked for the Jaguars to go after a guy like that because they can use a free safety like that, maybe the best safety in free agency, and safety is a huge need for the Jaguars. So I thought that was ideal, and now he has, you know, the guy that I compared him to, going to the Jaguars. And if they miss on Simmons, which honestly it might be likely that they could miss on him, the Broncos get him back, who knows. But then you have this option, who's supposed to be the best safety in the class, a good playmaker. He seems to be confident with his ability to play in the box as well. So that'll help the Jaguars out a ton, because they definitely could. They could use a couple starters, you know, 2 starting safeties right there. But it's hard to find that anything further, you know, at this point in the draft. So here's your opportunity. So I like that. Browns take Zayvon Collins. Yeah, I felt like I had him taking a linebacker almost every time in my mocks there. He says they need an upgrade there. They definitely can get better there. Zayvon Collins, I'm trying to figure out, my situation with him is, I mean, he's another ball player. He's always around the ball, playmaker, was a defensive player of the year college football from Tulsa. That Tulsa defense was nasty, and he was a big reason. And he played kind of multiple roles there in terms of linebacker positions, different, seeing him almost rush as an edge rusher, dropping coverage off the ball, everything. So what is he? You look at him, you almost look like he's built like an edge rusher, in my opinion, but that doesn't mean he is. But, I don't know what teams. Some teams might not have a spot for him. Some teams could. Maybe the other guys may have a little more speed than him, some of the other linebackers. But, the Browns definitely could use an upgrade there. It's a guy. It's the best way to explain him. First thing that comes to mind is he's just always at the ball, around the ball. Azeez Ojulari to the Ravens. I like this one as well. He really had a good year, really good game in the bowl game against Cincinnati. He basically won the game for them, had a strip sack to really completely change the game and turn the momentum around, and he ended the game with the sack that was a safety. So he had a big game there. Athletic pass rusher. He mentioned that he's a little undersized. I think he's undersized because at times at Georgia he almost played. He put a hand in the dirt on the line sometimes, standing up a bit. But, you see him a lot of time, hand in the dirt, almost like a 4-3 end. But, I think he's a little undersized for that. Well, teams will view that. I don't really go too over the top with, this guy is just too undersized to play or anything like that. Not that DJ's saying that or anything, but teams actually do that. That's my point. Teams actually will do that, and they'll avoid guys. I think he can fit as a 3-4 pass rusher, and that's what the Ravens played. The Ravens also have Yannick Ngakoue they traded for. He's a free agent. Matthew Judon's a free agent. Pernell McPhee is a free agent. Tyus Bowser's a free agent. Those last two don't really light up the box score, the production-wise, but they're very important to them as well. So all those guys are very good, important to them. So they definitely can use one, and we'll see what they do in free agency. I think it's a good fit. I think he's a heck of a player. Big-time playmaker, impact player, of course. So that'd be great. Saints take Nick Bolden from Missouri. I had a chance to actually watch Nick Bolden the other day, and I watched him during the season, of course, but I watched more of him, and I'm a big Nick Bolton guy. I'm a big-time fan here. The Saints definitely could use another linebacker. We talked about they could, in the previous video, they could cut Quan Alexander. That might have been a rental deal. Cut him, save a lot of space. They're in a bad cap space situation. And they'll probably lose Anzalone as well. They kind of been looking for another linebacker to pair with Demario Davis. They did draft Bond last year, but Bolton, I think, could fit. Him playing with Demario Davis could be fun. Somewhat similar players. Bolton will fly to the football. I mean, let's see, run and hit linebacker, outstanding range. Bolton bolts to the football. When I picked something up when I was watching him. He's very instinctive. I noticed a lot of times he was taking a step towards the ball before the ball was even snapped. I saw that several times, and he just shoots to it too. So I'm a big fan of him. Saints I could see that fit. If he's there, I could see the Saints taking him. What do we got next? Buccaneers taking Joe Tryon here, the edge rusher. A couple good defensive linemen from Washington that we didn't get to see play specifically this year. He mentioned they could lose Shaq. I was about to say that because Shaq Barrett in free agency. He hasn't, he hasn't got a lot of talk in first round conversation, but yeah, his size, length, power. Washington's got those solid defensive linemen, always got the solid defensive players, but yeah, they could lose Shaq Barrett. I think they'll get him back, but we'll say they get him back. Jason Pierre-Paul, 1 more year left on his deal. He's getting up there in age, still can ball though. So they can look out for the future here, but they also have 0 rotation. And rotation we're talking about pass rushers, very, very important, obviously. And the Buccaneers don't have a ton of needs, so they could afford to do something like this. And again, they could lose Shaq Barrett, and this could be their guy. It could be the Jason Pierre-Paul replacement for the near future. So, and I view him as a 3-4, edge rusher. So I think he's a fit as well. So that pick makes sense. And now we got the Bills taking Aaron Robinson, the cornerback from UCF. This is why DJ's, the best. So he always points out these guys that nobody has in the first round, and everyone else starts to go, okay, maybe this guy, and it starts to grab our attention there. So here's the guy that I just haven't seen talked about in the first round yet, but the Central Florida corner who had a really good season. He's very lengthy. I think he talks about it as well. I just saw it, corner of my eye. Robinson's tall, rangy cornerback, possibility to play slot or outside. Yeah, I'd like him better outside. Thing about Aaron Robinson, he was actually a Alabama recruit. He was going in as a freshman to Alabama, and he transferred to Central Florida for more playing time. He got that, and he didn't make it at Bama, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He was good enough, talented enough. They saw the traits, the upside, because how lengthy he is, athletic he is. That they saw him they viewed him, and they probably still do, as an Alabama corner. And just because he wasn't better than those top tier cornerbacks of the last, Surtain and Diggs had to be there at that time, and those were the guys of the future. So just because he's not maybe quite as good as those guys doesn't mean he's not good. And he lit it up at Central Florida. So that could be the guy there. That could be, it's a Bama corner, but just playing at Central Florida. So, and we've seen Mike Hughes go in the first not that long ago. So it's not like Central Florida's this, super small school or anything like that. So that has no chance of getting these guys going the first. Not at all like that. So yeah, that's definitely one to look out for. Apparently, DJ's put that guy on everyone's radar. Tutu Atwell from the Packers. He's kind of known as a potential first round guy maybe a year ago from now, and then now not too much talk about in the first round, but yeah, he's got that elite speed, home run ability. And he talks. I've been talking about I've kind of been saying the same thing. I had the Packers getting Darius Tony once or twice. Yeah, now I'm thinking he goes a little earlier. Same with DJ. And I was just talking about, man, what if the Packers had a guy like this home run speed? They just haven't really had it. Randall Cobb was kind of a shifty guy, more of a quick guy and good vision after he got the ball. They haven't really had this speed, the speed demon type of guy. That's just more than that, too. Guys like Atwell and Kadarius Tony. And the Packers could win the Super Bowl this year, but just imagining if they had even a rookie like that right now, I think they would boost them up that much more. Just the ultimate favorites to win the Super Bowl, because adding speed to that offense, that group like that, that are just more, that are players that are just more, they're not just speed, that'd be absolutely scary. So, you talk about the Packers don't normally take the receiver. I think I bring that up every time I haven't taken a receiver. Are they really going to do this? They should. They definitely should. So we'll see. And then the Chiefs, the last pick here for DJ Levi Onwuzurike from Washington. He opted out this past year too, but I remember watching him last year. He's a really good run stopper. This would be an interesting pick. Maybe just too good to pass. They do have Chris Jones and Derek Nottie in there, but they don't have much rotation at all. So I think that's what you're thinking there. He thinks Onwuzurike is the best interior defensive lineman in the class. I think most people would argue Christian Barmore. So he's the guy that can go first. But yeah, I watched him last year. I do like him. He's a really good run stopper. He got some interior pressure as well. What I noticed is, the best thing I saw about him stopping a run is he was always able to kind of mirror the offensive lineman, and then as soon as the ball gets to the line of scrimmage, he's just there, and the offensive lineman can't react. If he had to rip him off him, he kind of did. I noticed a lot of that, just kind of being able to see where the ball's going with an offensive lineman in front of him, just knowing where it's going, making a play. Basically, not much got by him from what I saw. A lot of these guys wish we would have saw a play this year. It's unfortunate they opt out. That's the big question. They really don't know the answer to right now is how will teams view guys that opted out? Some guys maybe view players, they didn't want to play. They don't love football that much, but they're doing it so they can play long term. So some might not worry about it. So that's that's kind of the question there. But a lot of these talented guys have opted out. I'm sure they're not going to hurt their stock too much. So we'll see. We got a lot of coverage to get to for the NFL, but free agency, NFL playoffs right now. We got a bunch on the channel, a bunch more to come. If you want to see that mock draft, I'll put a link in the comments there. And, check out those other links as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. So constant NFL action here at the Goat House. So hopefully you can join us for all that. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn notifications on so you don't miss a thing. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.